Are you looking for a simple yet intuitive RPG to run your players through or to play solo? Are you looking for a dark, grim, gritty world? Do you want your heroes to be the people who save the world? Then this game, Shadow of the Demon Lord, will be for you. This game is this RPG was written by Robert J. Schwab. For those of you who've never heard of him, if you've played D&D 5th edition, he was on that design team. I believe he also had his hand in 4th edition, parts of 3.5, and I believe he had something to do with the Warhammer role-playing game as well. His very own description of this game here would be if D&D and Warhammer got together and had a baby. This is a real easy, simple, intuitive system. This book here is the softback version. It's got like that vellum type cover. It's 200 some odd pages, I believe. Not counting the little character sheet they give you in the back. It's like 274 pages. And it is a well-written game. And I'm going to switch over to the PDF so you can actually see some of the content in more detail. But just want to let you know, this is a very good RPG system, whether you're playing with a group or you're running solo. And I will switch over to that PDF now. Okay, here we are at the PDF. We're looking at the table of contents right now. The first chapter, which is usually familiar in most RPG systems, is character creation. Now, the first thing you're going to do with your character is choose your ancestry. For those of you who play D&D and other games, this would be the equivalent of your race. Races in this particular book are human, changeling, clockwork, dwarf, goblin, and orc. You'll notice the very popular elf race is not present here. The elf race is described in a supplement book. However, if you play this game in the setting provided, elves usually don't make good adventurers anyway. Elves are kind of aloof. They would have the tendency of sitting there and while talking to you, reach over, poke your eye out, squeeze the juices out of it, and then turn right around and write the most beautiful write the most beautiful song ever about pleasure, and you would think it's the most beautiful thing ever, and at the end of the poem, find out the pleasure came from poking the guy's eye out. That kind of thing. They're very self-centered. They care only about themselves anyway, and they don't make good adventurers. However, this is your world, it's your game. If you want elves, by all means, you can play with elves, but you'll have to get the supplement for that. I believe that one's called Terrible Beauty. And then the next thing you're going to pick would be your starting professions. Excuse me. Professions in this game replace the skill system. When your character start off, if you play in this particular setting, you start off as simple farmers, bakers, potters, barkeeps, whatever, normal people, normal jobs. And the way the skills work is if you can, tell the DM, hey, I had the profession of blah, 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 whatever that was. If you can tell the DM in a sensible way how that will help under the current situation, the DM is inclined to give you a bonus on the rolls that your character makes, your challenge rolls. Challenge rolls in this game are pretty much like ability checks in D&D. I'll go into that later. You get some starting equipment, of course. You gotta, get your starting equipment. And they give you a bunch of charts to roll interesting things on. Interesting things are sort of similar to what you see in 5e. Some little widget, gadget, or whatever that you found, and you just, incorporate it into the game. And then, of course, it goes into role-playing your character, your first adventure, building a group, and the level of events. excuse me, the level advancement system. Here's a quick synopsis of the races. Humans, almost every RPG has humans. We are humans, so of course we're going to have humans in our games. Um, if you play in this particular setting, though, you don't have to play what you would call a normal human. Your skin tone can range from black to albino, white, green, blue, orange, pink, or something else. You can have patterns, stripes, thick body hair, no hair at all, things of that nature. And that's because of the shadow of the demon lord that happens to permeate throughout the land if you play in the particular setting. Of course, if you're playing in a different setting, obviously it's your game. You can change it however you want. After all, it's your game. Nothing says you have to follow every rule. When you create your character, you start off with your starting attribute scores. You don't roll. In addition to this option here, you can lower one ability score by 1 to raise another ability score by 1 time only. And then you have secondary skills, which kind of go off your 4 primary attributes: strength, agility, intellect, and will. And as you see at first level, this is what your human would get. This game does have insanity and corruption, and I'll go over that later. Here you choose your languages and or your professions. And as you can see, you got some handy dandy charts here that you can roll on. If you want to give yourself a special background, determine your age, your religion, your build. Of course, you can always pick and choose, but some people like charts, some people don't. Again, your game. Do what you want. They also have changelings. Changelings in this game are like fairies that can assume the appearance of another race. Now, it's not like shape change. According to the rules, you have to have actually seen the person in which you have assumed the appearance thereof. That's a cool race you don't usually see in a lot of role-playing games. Another racial choice is clockworks. Clockworks are they're not the steampunkish kind of thing. Well, maybe they might be in your world. You can do whatever you want. But a clockwork is sort of kind of more akin to like a warforged. They are made from metal, gears, wires, springs, cogs, and whatever. But human souls, or not necessarily human souls, but a soul has been trapped or conjured into the body. And that's how they work. They're souls trapped in a mechanical being. And then, of course, you got the rules here for playing a clockwork, as well as the ability scores, etc. We'll go on to the dwarves. Dwarves are close to what you would typically think of as a dwarf. However, in this game settings past, they tried to build the equivalent, I guess, of the Tower of Babel to try to reach the heavens, and they were struck down by the gods. And then that's where they were forced to live underground. They were knocked down in stature. They used to be big and tall, but now they're short and dense. And of course, being forced to live underground, that's where they get their dwarven traits as far as mining and, their hatred towards everybody. Matter of fact, I think one of the bonuses you get as a dwarf is you get to choose a creature from the hatred table, and you get a boon on attack rolls made against those creatures you hate. Boons and Banes is what makes this game easy to play, and I will go over that later. And then Goblins. You can play a goblin in this game. They give you the rules for playing goblins. Goblins in this game are fairy folk that were cast out of the fairylands. They're dirty, nasty, decrepit. They appear like your normal goblin. Of course, they do have a bizarre and varied appearance, just like humans. As a matter of fact, if the DM was to describe to you a creature, thanks to the shadow of the demon lord that overcasts this world, you almost can't even tell what race a creature might be. It could be a human, it could be a goblin, it could be a dwarf. You never know, because everybody in this world has some weird quirk or some weird physical appearance that you almost literally, you can describe a creature and it could be any race. You wouldn't know it because everybody's basically all screwed up in one way, shape, or form. You can play orcs. Orcs in this race were once slaves. They were giants that were created by magic, used as slaves, and they revolted, and now they've tried to claim their independence. Of course, there are a few slaves running around. Again, that's the setting for this particular game. Your world, your mileage may vary. Here's where we talk about professions. Let's say, let's pick a random profession here just to show. Let's say your character had the criminal profession of a pickpocket. Now, when you tell your DM, hey, I'm picking someone's pockets, the DM is inclined to give you a bonus of some sort on the roll. More than likely, he'll give you a additional boon, which I said we'll go over later. Because that's what makes this system easy to play, is the boons and banes system. Starting equipment, you simply make a simple roll to see what your wealth level is and what your starting gear will consist of. And then you get to roll on this, your interesting thing table. It could be anything from a bag of 100 marbles, a shrunken head, a bottle filled with maiden's tears, and then you can incorporate that into your character's backstory, or your DM may, use that as some prop, some tool for the adventure you're playing. So it's just a little cool knick-knack that you get to carry around. Well, maybe not carry around, because one of them is a demanding spouse. I don't know if I want to carry my demanding spouse around, but you get the drift. All right, and here's the basics of the game. This system uses a D20 and D6s. Whenever your character attempts to do something that doesn't target another NPC or character, you're making a challenge roll. Picking the pocket, kicking down the door, opening the lock, whatever the case may be, you will make a challenge roll against one of your ability scores. You will take your ability score modifier, which is real easy to figure out because it's based on the number 10. For every point higher than 10 the particular ability score is, you'll get a +1. For every negative point or below 9 you are, below 10 that you are, you will get a -1. So if you have a 12 in an ability score, you'll get a +2. If you have an 8, you have a -2. Whenever you try to do anything, the target number is always a 10. You roll 10 or higher, you succeed. A 9 or lower, you fail. Now, I know you're thinking, well, what if the door is hard to open or easy to open? Or what if, whatever the situation is, it should be either harder or easier than that. Well, that's where the Banes and Boons system comes into play. Alright, circumstances that make the D20 rolls easier or harder. These are positive circumstances, which we will call Boons, and negative circumstances, which we will call Banes. Boons improve your D20 rolls, while Banes subtract from your D20 rolls. They hinder your D20 rolls. Banes and Boons cancel each other out. Now, you're probably asking yourself, what's a Bane or what's a Boon? A Boon is anything that gives you a bonus on that particular roll. You're, like we discussed earlier with the professions, you're a pickpocket, and you're trying to pick someone's pockets. The DM will give you a boon on that roll. If you're trying to climb a wall, and the wall has handholds, the DM will give you a boon. Trying to climb that same wall without the handholds, and it's covered in grease or whatever the case may be, that will give you a negative roll, or a negative, will give you a bane. How the Banes and Boons work is, after you've canceled the Banes and Boons out, let's say you still have 2 Boons. You will roll 2d6, and then you will take the highest of those d6 and add it to your 20 roll. So let's say you rolled a 9 on your d20, and a 2 was the highest you rolled on your d6s. You have a score of 11, you succeeded. Now let's say the opposite. You're trying to climb that slippery wall. You roll a 13 with your modifier on the d20, but you rolled a 4 as your highest number on those D6s. In that case, then you have a total score of 9, you fail the roll. If you actually sit here and pause the video if you want and read this particular paragraph, it gives you an example of how that would work in its own words. Using your attributes. This game only has 4 attributes: strength, agility, intellect, and will. Strength is directly associated with your health. Agility is directly associated with your defense. Intellect is directly associated to your perception. And will is directly associated with your insanity. Insanity I'll go over later. Actually, insanity was the next subject in the book, so we'll discuss insanity now. Characters risk madness when they encounter the strange, the unsettling, and the awful. Being affected by dark magic, encountering horrifying demons released from the void, and witnessing acts of sudden, brutal violence can stress or even shatter the mind. Insanity measures this stress. One of the reasons why I like this particular system, and this is kind of my thing against Dungeons and Dragons, your characters are out there and they're they're facing dragons, they're facing undead. In some cases, they're stuck in horrible situations that would affect the mind. And usually it's just, make a simple saving throw, and if you fail, you're only affected for a couple rounds, blah, 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 blah. It's not that big of a deal. Well, here, being exposed to these type of elements actually affect the mind. Whenever a situation occurs where you might gain insanity, whether because you failed a roll of will against that, terrifying dragon, or that evil cultist has cast a nasty spell upon you, you will gain insanity points. When your insanity reaches your will level, then you roll on this handy-dandy little chart of madness, and a bunch of bad things happen to you. Your heart stops and you die. Or you could have a revelation, reduce your insanity score, and you make will challenge rolls to resist gaining insanity with a boon, and all points in between. There is an expanded chart in one of the other supplements. I don't remember which supplement that is, but this particular system has a ton of supplements that you can use to add to your game. This game also has what they call a corruption score. A corruption score is when you're out there and your character is doing evil deeds. These evil deeds will affect your character's soul, so to speak. You gain corruption from various things such as murder, harming an innocent by spreading disease, poisoning a well, or being reckless with magic. Stealing for personal gain. Watch out, rogues. Robbing old granny of her precious copper pieces. That's a bad thing. Learning spells from dark traditions. This goes into the magic section. I'll go over that later. Using certain relics. I'm going to use a D&D example here, because this happens quite often in my D&D games with the experience point system, and my things against the experience point system that D&D has. On many of the campaigns I've played, the DM gives out the experience points. Someone looks at their character sheet and goes, darn, I'm only 100 XP away from gaining my next level. Hey DM, I'm going to walk out of town, go out in the woods, find me an orc or a goblin or something, and kill it, just to gain the experience. Well, one, that kind of deters from the role-playing experience in general. And two, just going out to just murder someone just because you want to gain those experience points, that's kind of, blase, and doesn't play well. Also, it's just, okay, what's the alignment sheet on your character? Now, this game doesn't have alignment. I know D&D does, and some people play with it, and some people don't, and some people are so super strict with alignment, and there's a whole argument to be made with the alignment systems. We won't go into that here. There are no alignments in this game. The closest thing is this corruption score. And as you go up in corruption points, well, bad things happen to you there as well. Here's a list of things that will happen. Plus, by doing these things, you will, attract the demon lord himself if you play in this setting. And you could possibly have a mark of darkness. Whatever your corruption score is, you roll a d20. If you roll your corruption score or less, you roll on this chart. Again, there's an expanded chart in other books, and things like this can happen. Your nose rots away, leaving a dark crater in your face that leaks a bloody mucus. Or once a week, a child within a mile of you sickens and dies. So you got to play carefully there with that corruption and just going out and wildly murdering people, stealing their stuff, learning dark magic will affect your character because you get a high enough corruption score. If you die or become incapacitated, you cannot be restored to life. Your soul goes straight to hell. Boom. All right, I'm going to touch a little bit here on combat because combat here is a little different than what you'd be accustomed to most role-playing games. Most role-playing games have some type of initiative system where you roll the dice, determine who goes first, and the DM writes down in the order excuse me, that everybody goes in. Throw that out the window when it comes to this game. When it comes to initiative and combat and things of that nature, you have what you call fast turns, slow turns, end of the round effects, and then there's also something called triggered actions. Unless the party is surprised or the monster or NPC has some type of special ability, the PCs always go first. Let me say that again. Unless the creature or NPC has some type of special ability or the party is surprised, the PCs always go first, and they can go in any order they want. The fast turns, normally in D&D and those type of games, you can move and attack, or attack and move. Well, in this game, if you attack and move, you have to wait till the slow turn. If you're just going to move or just going to attack, then you will take a fast turn. The way it goes is, unless, there's some special circumstance where the NPC goes first, when the party goes first, they'll take their fast turns. So all those people on the PC side that just want to take an action or move, go first. Then the NPCs and the monsters, if they're taking any fast turns, will take their fast turns. If you're doing both, moving and performing an action, then the PCs will go on their slow turns. Then it shifts back to the DM. His people will take their slow turns. And then at the end of the round, you do the end of the round effects. If people are poisoned, they're frightened, they're suffering some type of affliction, you knock a point off there. And then there's also something called a triggered action. Some triggered actions will specifically state the trigger. When a goblin attacks you and misses, you can perform such and such triggered action. Or it may just say, as a triggered action, you can do this. When it just says, as a triggered action, you can do this at any time throughout the round. Even before the fast turns, or during the slow turns, or just for the end of the round, whatever makes the most sense for that particular situation. So, that's the basics of the initiative. Here's a list of the basic actions you can take. You can attack, cast a spell, concentrate to maintain the spell, defend, end an effect, find, help, hide, prepare, reload, retreat, rush, stabilize, or use an item. And the book goes over extensively what each of those are in this list here. And then here's where it talks about the triggered actions. The trigger. Any activity that involves the use of a triggered action also specifies a condition which the character can use it. This condition is called the trigger. It could be broad, such as on your turn, or narrow, such as when a creature willingly moves out of your reach. Provided you meet the conditions for using the triggered action, you may do so, provided you have not already used a triggered action during the round. You get one triggered action every round. Making attacks. Well, it's very simple. If you're attacking with a melee weapon, you will roll your die, you will add your strength modifier, or your agility modifier if the weapon has the finesse property. Obviously, if you have any Banes or Boons in effect, you will roll those. and then you will try to hit the character or the monster's defensive score. If you're attacking with a weapon, usually attack defense. If you're attacking with some spell, like a fireball where they have a chance to dodge, it might be against their agility. If it's some type of nasty poison effect, it'll go against their strength. If it's some type of mental attack, it'll go against their attack or will, or not their intellect or their will, depending on the situation, the spell, whatever. In addition to just swinging your weapon to hit, there are some melee attack options. You can do what's called like a driving attack. You make the attack roll with one bane, and on a success, you can move the target around. Guarded attack is like taking a defensive position. Lunging attack is you're trying to reach that guy that's just out of your reach. Shifting attack because you want to move around the battlefield. Or an unbalancing attack because you want to knock the creature on its butt and take advantage of them being prone. Ranged weapons do this pretty much the same thing. You can also do called shots, distant shots, and staggering shots. Attack a particular body part, shoot further than the weapon is designed, or a staggering shot. Another chance to, well, knock the target on its butt. There are some other options, like if you need to escape, pull a feint, grab someone, shove someone, or even charge someone. You want to attack objects that they are carrying. There are rules for that. And then, of course, the situational banes to attack rolls, such as if they're taking cover. There's the rules there for that. Knocking them down, pulling them towards you. All kinds of combat options. Even though it sounds like it's a lot, it's real simple. In a lot of cases, you're just adding boons and bane dice. Alright, now I'm going to went back to the table of contents because I want to touch on the path system. The path system in this game is sort of like your class would be in D&D. Going back a bit, this game is designed for 10 levels of play. Typically, you start off at, like I said, at 0 level. You're just a farmer, a potter, or whatever. Of course, it's your game. You can start at any level you want. But once you hit your first level, you pick up what's called your Novice Path. Your Novice Path choices are Magician, Priest, Rogue, and Warrior. Those are akin to the basic classes in D&D. Your Mage, your Priest, your Rogue, and your Warrior from D&D. This is like the foundation class for your character. Let's take a look at, say, the Rogue. Looking at the Rogue here, what happens when you hit level 1 Rogue? You increase 2 of your attributes by 1. You get 3 more points to your health. You can either add a language or get another profession from either common, criminal, or wilderness. And then you get your first special skill, Nimble Recovery. You can use an action to heal damage equal to your healing rate, then move half your speed without triggering free attacks. Once you use this talent, you can't use it again until after you complete a rest. Your healing damage, your healing rate is usually 1/4 of your total hit points. We talked about triggered actions. There is a triggered action that anyone can perform, and that is if a creature or somebody who you are engaged in melee with tries to step out of melee, you get a free attack. Sort of like Attack of Opportunity was in 3rd edition. This, obviously, with this particular skill here, this guy can heal himself and get out of harm's way once per day. And then his next feat is Trickery. Once per round, you make an attack roll or a challenge roll with 1 boon. If you attack with 1 boon from this talent, your attack deals an extra d6 damage. Well, rogues are, tricky. And this kind of represents that. This is like, the baby feints in combat, or him trying to mislead you in different ways to find that opening in your armor, or whatever the case may be. That's what is represented here. As you go up in levels now as your rogue, you get more abilities and talents as described here. I'm not going to read them off. I'm just going to let you take a look at that. You can freeze the video if you want. And then we got more talents over here. You can even roll on a chart to see why you became a rogue if you want to go that route. But yeah, there's some special skills that the rogue gets. Now, once your character hits 3rd level, at 3rd level, you pick your expert path. Now, the funny thing about this path system is there are no prerequisites to be any one of these expert paths. So let's take our rogue, for example. If he wanted to, he could stay roguish and take classes like the assassin or the hexer or whatever. But he could also, if he wanted to pick up some magic, he can say, oh wait, excuse me, that is incorrect because those are the master paths. Let's go back up here to the experts. He could become a scout, a thief, and those would keep him within that roguish range. But like I said, there's nothing stopping him from picking up talents as a ranger. Or if he wanted some spell juju, he could become a witch or a wizard. There is no prerequisites. And this is where like your multi-classing comes into play. You're playing this rogue, you want to stay roguish? Fine. Pick one of these rogue type expert paths. If you want to expand out, maybe your rogue decided he wants to pray to a particular deity, so he becomes a cleric. Or he figures, you know, his fighting skills aren't as great as he wants them to be. He can pick up fighter. For our purposes, we will take a quick glance at the thief class. All right, here's our thief class. Again, you can roll on this chart if you want to see, you know, excuse me there, why you became a thief. Of course, you know, if it, whatever game you're playing, either with your DM or solo, your story may determine why you became a thief. And then you pick up these abilities. I'm not going to read them off. You can just take a quick look here. Here's an example of a triggered action. You can use a triggered action on your turn to hide or retreat. So there you go. Or like opportunist, when a creature within your reach takes damage from attack, you can use your triggered action to attack that creature. Well, you know, that's what thieves do. They take every opportunity they can to do their deeds. And then here's a list of talents you can get, which of course all those are your standard thief talents. Escaping, hiding in shadows, moving silently, open locks, picking pockets, scaling walls, and trap dealing. And as you can see, like here, open locks. If you have lock picks, you can use an action to open a lock you can reach. If the GM calls for a challenge roll for any reason, you can make it with a boon. There's that Boons and Bane system coming into play. Alright, your character's gone on a few adventures. He's got some experience under his belt. When he reaches 7th level, at that point he gets to pick his master path. This is where he refines and concentrates on that one area of expertise he wants to be really, really good at. Again, there is nothing stopping you from taking that rogue and picking up a mage class, or a fighter type class, or a wizard type class. And here's a whole list. There's like over 60 something master paths here. And then there are more in the plethora of supplements that are out there. For grins and giggles, let's just say our thief decided, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, catch a tiger. Let's have him become a blade. Let's take a look at the blade master path. Alright, blades are master knife fighters, quick and precise. They want to, you know, get in there and kill their enemy quick. And here's their abilities. Obviously, you increase your attributes, get some health points, language is profession, bleed. Your attack with daggers, knives, and similar offhand weapons can leave bleeding wounds. When your total attack roll is 20 or higher with such a weapon and exceeds the target number by at least 5, the target suffers a bleeding wound that will last until the target heals damage or until the creature uses an action to staunch the wound. While suffering from the wound, the target is fatigued, which is one of the afflictions which will inflict a bane upon all their rolls, and take an extra d6 damage at the end of each round. And then at level 10, they pick up more health and the Swift Blade ability. You can use a triggered action on your turn to attack with a dagger or knife. There's basically, now the thief's got 2 attacks per round, basically, just off that. Here's your basic advancement chart right here. Like I said, you start off at 0 level, or it's your game. You can start off whatever level you want. But at level 1, you choose your Novice Path and gain those abilities. At 2nd level, you get the benefits of your 2nd level from your Novice Path. At 3rd level, you choose your Expert Path. And at 4th level, you gain your benefits from your Ancestry from that level. At level 5, you get your Novice Path benefit for that level. Level 6, you get your Expert Path benefit. At level 7, you choose your Master Path. 8, you gain your benefits for level 8 for Novice. 9, you get your Expert Path bonus for that level. And then at 10, you gain benefits from your Master Path at that level. This system, like I said, goes up to only 10 levels. There are rules and supplements that will take your character beyond that. But one of the reasons why it was designed like that is he wanted, actually, I'm going to go through the whole story here, so brace yourself. You go out, you're playing D&D, and you go buy that big box campaign that will take your characters from 1st to 20th level, and you expect to be playing that game for years. But what happens? Real life happens. Your friends have to move, or job requirements change, or family situations change, and they can't show up for those gaming sessions anymore. Trust me, I know. I've been through it. The way this works is there's no experience points. You go out, you complete an adventure, you gain a level. The DM determines when that happens, usually some focal point in the story. The level 1 adventure could be something as simple as, go clear out a goblin cave. While your level 10 is, Orcus is getting ready to come through the gates of hell and kill everybody, and you guys have to stop it. That kind of thing. Usually after every gaming session, boom, go ahead, you get gain a level, you get another character, quality, ability, skill, whatever, and you build your character over time. You don't need to spend a lot of time working on making that 1st level character, because all you're doing is making it your ancestry. And then you're making those choices as the story progresses. So let's go back to our rogue we were looking at. Let's say throughout the story, when he got to get to his Expert Path, instead of taking the path that we pick, the story kind of indicates maybe it's time to pick up some magic mojo. So he decides to become a wizard. It doesn't lock you into that one character class throughout the whole campaign. It's real easy to multi-class without having to, do all that stuff in D&D, like chop experience points up and keep the levels within each other. I remember in 3rd edition, I think if you multi-classed and one class got 2 levels higher than all your other classes combined, or any of your other classes, you took an experience point penalty. You ain't got to worry about that. If you want to play that straight rogue all the way through to 10th level, you can. If you want to play the rogue, picks up some magic talents at 3rd level, and then becomes priest for whatever reason at 7th level, whatever the story says, however the character wants to be played out by the PC, that's fine. I hope that helps. It was kind of rambling, but it's real simple and easy, the level advancement system. All right, I'm going to touch on equipment real quick. Equipment, is not much special. Every RPG, your characters have to have their swords, their backpacks full of stuff in order to go on their adventures. This goes over the equipment section real quick, goes over the money system, carrying limits, things of that nature. Has a pretty in-depth system without being too in-depth, without being too crunchy, so it doesn't slow down the game. Here's your armor chart. Light armor, you just simply add to your agility score. Metal and heavier armor just gives you a flat defense rating. This is sort of kind of like takes place of your maximum dex while wearing certain armors. You don't have to worry about that. You're wearing soft leather or hard leather, just add it to the appropriate agility score. If you're wearing brigandine, you have a defense score of 13. Mail, scale, plate, mail, and full plate, all the way up to 18. It's real simple, real quick. It's real easy to figure out what you need to hit a person with if you're attacking in melee. Short, sweet, to the point. And then, of course, it has a weapons chart. Tells how much damage your weapons do. Like I said, everything here is based off a D6. It's either a D6 plus or minus, maybe 2D6 or 3D6, or the D3. Also, there'll be, you can go back to that real quick. I hit the button too fast. Sorry, guys. There's your regular equipment for backpacks and stuff. In order to use a certain weapon, you need to have the appropriate ability score. So for these simple small weapons, basic melee weapons, there are no requirements per se. That gives the properties of the weapons. But down here, for like shields, you require a strength 9 or higher. For these military melee weapons, requires a strength 11 or higher. And then if you want to get into the bigger weapons, you're looking at, a 13 or higher. And therefore, it also kind of, at first edition D&D, or not first edition, excuse me, third edition, I guess this could be applied to first edition as well. You make your character, he's poor, he starts off with, his dagger and his shield or whatever, and by the time he finishes his first adventure, he's walking around in his full plate and his bastard sword and his huge shield. And that was kind of unrealistic for me. You'll have to make the investment into your character's strength score if you want to wield these big heavy weapons. You just can't, first level out the gate, have your full plate, your big armor, your big shield. One, you probably don't have the strength requirement, and two, based on the money system, they're quite expensive. 1 gold and 2 gold for these weapons don't seem like a lot. But the monetary system is pretty much based on copper bits. And if you saw the screenshot earlier of the money chart, copper bits is what your characters are probably going to be finding on their first couple adventures, probably for a long time. And copper bits are literally 1/10 of a copper. It's 10 bits to equal 1 copper, 10 copper to equal 1 silver, 10 silver to equal 1 gold. So to be able to afford that plate mail, you're going to need lots of money. And money in this world is hard to come by if you play by the setting. Again, it's your game. You can do whatever you want. Alright, now I'm going to delve into the magic system. In this world, or in this setting, arcane and divine and psionics, they don't exist in the sense you'd be normally used to. Magic is one big pool. Whether your character accesses that pool through praying to the gods and believing he's getting blessed by the gods with being able to cast spells, or the wizard who reads, the books, or there's an option for the adept in another supplement, which is akin to the sorcerer who just has magic flowing through his veins. Again, it's your world. You can do whatever you want with magic, but in this setting, magic is one pool, and the only difference is how your character believes he's accessing the magic system. Your spells are broken down into, how many we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. There's over 30 traditions of magic. Some are based off your intellect, and some are based off your will. When your character learns a tradition, he automatically gets a 0-level spell of that particular tradition. And then as your character levels up, he may get access to more traditions as the play goes along. For example, let's go ahead and take a look at, say, the priest. Alright, let's take a look here at the priest real quick. Under characteristics, you'll see this power +1. I'm going to go over that in a minute. That pertains to magic. You look down here at magic. You discover one tradition associated with your religion. And here are the basic religious traditions. There are supplements out there that have other religious traditions, but these are the ones described in the core book. Then you make 2 choices. For each choice, either discover a new tradition associated with your religion, or you learn a spell from a tradition you have discovered. So there's how your character will gain spells as they level up. When he hits level 2, again he makes 2 more choices, either discover another tradition or learn a spell. And when you gain that tradition, you obviously get a 0 level spell. Again, it goes up at level 5, and then once again at level 8. How you cast spells is based on your power score. Now, when I first saw this chart, having so many years of D&D under my belt, I thought this was close to the Vancian system. I was wrong. When I first thought of this, I saw, okay, if I'm power level 1, I get 2 0-level spells and 1 first-level spell. That's incorrect. The way this particular chart works is, if you have a power score of 1, every 0-level spell you have, you can cast 2 times. And every level 1, or this game calls them rank, but for every rank 1 spell you have, you can cast each of those spells once. So let's say you have 4 0-level spells. You're casting each of those 4 0-level spells twice per day. And let's say you have 2 first-level spells, or rank spells. Then you will cast each one of those once per day. Here's an example of the air tradition. Let's take a look at this Flend spell here. The way the Flend spell works, you target one creature or object within short range. Windborne Grit scours your target. Make a will attack roll against the target's strength. On a success, the target takes 2d6 plus 3 damage. A living creature that becomes incapacitated by this damage dies instantly. Its flesh, if any, is stripped from its bones. If you roll an attack roll of 20 plus, the target takes 2d6 extra damage. That's the basics of how a spell works. This game does not necessarily have critical hits or fumbles, but this right here is the closest thing it will have to a critical hit. In this case, the target takes 2 extra d6 damage, but there are other spells that have, if you get an attack roll higher than 20, I looked at the fighter type classes. Some of those say when you attack with a melee weapon or a ranged weapon or whatever, if you have an attack roll of 20 plus, you get some type of benefit. Not every spell or every combat will have this, but some do. This is the closest thing it has to a critical hit system. Going back real quick to these traditions by attribute. Remember that good old corruption score? Well, if you delve into magics that humans or whatever should not be delving into, you will gain a corruption point if you dip into spells that follow the necromancy or the curse or the forbidden magic traditions. You will get a corruption point for learning the tradition, and you typically earn a corruption point for each spell you learn. So this game, if you want to play within the setting with those grim and gritty corruption rules, this is what will happen if your character decides to go off the deep end and go completely off the wall. Beware. You saw what happens when your character gets corrupt. Of course, it would make a good NPC, or it may be a very interesting player character. That's up to you. It's your world. You can do whatever. I'm not going to read it, but I'm just going to leave this right here for a bit so you guys can take a look at this Hateful Defecation spell, which is one of the signature spells in this game. You can see why after you read this, why, it is a very grim, gritty, evil, disgusting world that we're playing in. All right, I'm going to go over briefly the setting, as the book also contains the setting for which this game is played. Again, it's your game. You can play it in any setting that you want. But if you want to play the setting for which the game is designed for, you just kind of read through here, and it'll give you the general background of geography, the nations, etc. And, your basic background information. There are supplements that will go into more detail over some of these locations. You can get those from Drivethru RPG on the cheap for the most part. But like I said, it goes in lots of detail, but not so detailed that it'll drive you crazy. It kind of gives you general broad strokes for you to do whatever you want to do in your campaign. Now, we're going to fast forward, and we're going to get into the reason why the name of the game is called Shadow of the Demon Lord. The reason why the name of the game is called Shadow of the Demon Lord is because, well, the shadow of the Demon Lord is literally hanging over the world. Think of the Demon Lord as this powerful, nameless, faceless entity that lives in the void. And now his influence is, he's breaking that veil that separates the void from reality. And now his negative influence is coming through. Maybe cultists in your world have been praying and working hard to bring him about, and that's how he's there. Or he just happened to randomly show up. It's up to you, it's your game. But it gives you 20 different shadows you can apply towards your game. Things like the black sun. The sun is blotted out, but there's still enough light. It's unhealthy light. Things, plants, animals are dying. The opposite would be like bloom. Nature is going wild and crazy. Plants are literally, growing overnight. You got invaders, pandemics, Restless Dead. If you want to have a zombie apocalypse, you can do Restless Dead. We'll look at that one real quick. Restless Dead. The shadow falls upon the underworld's gates, preventing souls from descending there. Graveyards vomit hordes of mindless undead, powered by the souls trapped within rotting corpses. The shuffling mobs remember nothing of their mortal existence. They are driven by an unspeakable hunger for the flesh of the living, and each death only swells their numbers. And a game effect is when a living creature dies, it rises as a zombie 1d6 minutes later. So that could be a shadow that you can overthrow on your game to indicate that the Demon Lord is coming through. There is another supplement out there, I think it's called Exquisite Agony, which will take these 20 shadows, as they're called, and expand on them at various game levels. And then it's got a Game Master's Toolbox here. We'll go in depth into things like corruption, deprivation, what happens when your characters don't get enough food, water, or sleep, disease, gaining insanity, quirks, exposure, fire, various afflictions, traps, how they work. I'm not going to go into detail. The book explains it quite well, and it's pretty much similar to D&D and other role-playing systems. Reward, your level increase. Like I said, typically at the end of each adventure, you gain a level. That way you can actually run a campaign with a group, and hopefully life will not interfere during the 11 or so sessions in which you play your campaign. One of the advantages is you can play a campaign if you're playing with a group. Once you've done, say, my campaign, the next guy in line can run a campaign. And like I said, it's usually only for 11 or so sessions. You get to complete the story. It's not like you got this big box set that you normally get out of a D&D box set that you think you're going to play for 20 years but never do. Trust me, I know. I've got a couple of those RPG supplements, and we never made it through the entire campaign because, well, like I said, life happened. And of course, we're playing in a fantasy world with magic, so you have your magic items as well. And here is charts to help you create magic items. You are free to create your own, but this will give you a general synopsis of how they work. Let's say, for example, whenever you attempt to climb, you make the strength check challenge roll with 1 boon. So you can put that, say, as clothing or jewelry. Pair of boots. Everybody got boots of climbing in D&D. There you go, clothing. Piece of cloth. Shoes of spider climb or whatever. There's your equivalent right there. Whenever you attempt to climb, make the strength challenge roll with 1 boon. And it gives you, like I said, plenty of charts to create magic items from. You're, of course, free to create your own. And then, of course, relics, which are the equivalent of, say, artifacts in D&D. Very, very powerful items. Usually unique, usually near indestructible, and usually have some type of negative influence on your character. This book also contains a fairly decent, good-sized bestiary or bestiary, depending on how you want to pronounce it. It's got all your standard typical creatures that you know and love in most fantasy games. Your skeletons, your undead, your goblins, your medusas, your demons, your animals. Each creature has its own special attack options and special effects and gives you the ability scores and whatnot, all the information you need. It's real quick and easy to, get these stats down and throw them in your campaign. It's not like you got to read this big old tome that, one creature, like some of these creatures in most D&D books take up 2 or 3 pages in some cases. You don't need all that. Here's like a typical bone guard. It's like enhanced skeleton there. You'll see stats like here, frightening undead. When you see a creature that has the frightening talent, there basically means make that will save or your character becomes frightened. And then you got something like a bone machine here, which is horrifying. Horrifying is one of those traits where you make that save, and if you fail, you gain those insanity points we talked about earlier. And that kind of brings in that realism of fighting these deadly creatures that man should not be messing around with, but we are anyway. So that's, like I said, a quick description of the bestiary. Just want to show off this page real quick. These are abilities you can give the demons in your world, so not all demons are the same. You can roll, pick, and choose. Again, it's your world. Do what you feel is best for your game, whether you're playing with a group or solo. It also has a few rules here if you want to customize your creatures, make them bigger, frightening, add some special characteristics, give them class levels, things of that nature. You can add a character template. Who says that troll just has to be a regular troll? It could be a novice priest or like a shaman type dude. Or quick difficulty level chart, so you keep your, make sure that your characters, if this is your thing, have balanced fights with the monsters and NPCs they will encounter. It has a fairly good in-depth index, making finding things simple and easy. It's your standard typical index. And then you have your character sheet. Now I know for some people like this character sheet, some people don't. Me personally, I write mine on pen and paper anyway. I don't use character sheets. I actually handwrite it. I'm old school, but they give you a sample character sheet, and that was one of the first things that kind of drew me to the game. When I saw this character sheet, I'm like, "What? That's it? That's the character sheet?" But like I said, there's enough information here where it's simple yet intuitive enough that you get enough of that crunch that some people want. Like I said, there are people out there who play 4 Against the Darkness. I have nothing against 4 Against the Darkness. It's just not crunchy enough for me. I need something with a little more crunch. And then there are some people who absolutely got to play the most complicated RPG out there, like GURPS or something of that nature, where there's got to be a rule for everything. This, for me, is one of those good, fits in between. It's quick, it's easy, but still has enough crunch to make the game worthwhile playing, tactically, role-playing wise, things of that nature. You can get your copy of Shadow the Demon Lord in PDF, softcover, or hardcover from Drivethru RPG. I'll put links below. Whether you buy Shadow the Demon Lord or you're looking for some other RPG product, I ask that you please use my links. That will help support the channel and allow me to make more videos for you guys. Because of my previous videos and those who have used my Drivethru links, thank you. Because of that, I was actually able to purchase the Shadow of the Demon Lord at a reduced cost because I had enough credits there. And that, like I said, helped support me and buying these RPG products and then bringing these RPG products to you. Also point out here that there are literally over like 100 or almost 200 supplements you can get. Other than the base book, most are really cheap, $3, $4, $5 or less. They include more setting information. They include adventures, like starting adventures, supplements like this companion here. I don't have, I have it in PDF, the second companion, but I actually have a physical copy of the Demon Lord's Companion number 1, which out of all of these products out there, if you were to ask me what product would you get after you get the main book, it would be the first companion, as the first companion goes in more depth with, let me go ahead and just click on this link here real quick. It gives you the fawn and halfling ancestries, more expert paths, more master paths, alchemical items, new rules for creating gear using vehicles, more traditions of magic. Plus, if you're one of those people, I know some people like it, some people don't, but some people don't mind having the equivalent of psionics in their world. This brings telekinesis and telepathy and those type of magic traditions, which you can use as either magic tradition or they can be used as psionics. Again, it's your choice, it's your campaign, it's your world, you get to do whatever you want. So if you like the Shadow of the Demon Lord and you want to expand your portfolio or your products that you have with the Shadow of the Demon Lord, this would be the number 1 first thing on my list I would recommend you get. I have some of the PDFs of the other products, and I've gone through them in detail, and this is the best one out of all of them, which is why I went ahead and purchased the print product. Thank you for watching this video. Feel free to like, subscribe, and share. If you have someone that you want to introduce to the game, but you feel you might not be able to communicate well, feel free to just show them this video and see if they'll be interested in playing your game. If you're a solo RPGist, this may be something you want to take a look at. But other than that, y'all have a good day, and I hope you have some good gaming. Have a nice day.